Lenarz is Executive Director of the Human Security Center, who has traveled extensively to Iraq and attended every session of the Chilcot inquiry. Good evening, Julie.
Good evening.
So you sat there every day. Do you think that Chilcot's conclusions are justified?
No, I didn't sit there every day. I watched them all, the sessions. You could also watch them online, just to clarify that. But yeah, I watched every single evidence that was given to the inquiry, and I read every single key document that was issued by the inquiry and that is publicly available at its website. And I have to say to you, when I watched the press conference this morning, I was actually quite surprised how, in my view, one-sided his verdict was. Because during all, the written and oral evidence that was given over the years, there was certainly a lot of criticism, but there were also many people, sort of explaining why the government took the view that it took at the time, based on the available information at the time. And I personally don't think this came across very well this morning.
You've been an outspoken supporter also of Tony Blair in the past. This notion that he went with a good intent but based on faulty intelligence, do you think that's still fair when this much is known so many years later, including the lead up to the war, his note to George W. Bush, even months before there was an actual announcement, this dossier was handed over?
Well, I think you just made 2 points. Let me deal with them separately. Well, first of all, I still believe that he did not deliberately lie, that he acted in good faith at the time. That is what I can conclude from everything that I read. And I looked at Iraq for many years now. I've read all the key documents that you will also find in the Chilcot report. Let's remember that at the time of the invasion, it was common knowledge, really, by people who dealt with Iraq for years, by intelligence agencies, that he was in possession of WMDs, or at least that he still had the intent and the scientists, and with the rising oil prices at the time, also the money again to revive his WMD program. So if you say this is something that George Bush or Tony Blair made up out of the blue, that is simply not correct. I mean, Bill Clinton, go back and look what Bill Clinton said in the 1990s about Saddam Hussein's WMD program, and you will find very similar statements to what Tony Blair said and George W. Bush said. And to your second point, what you were saying about that he said, I'm with you, whatever, without sort of before the second dossier was out and before the UN resolution, I think he pointed out repeatedly that what he meant was he was signaling to the Bush administration that there was a coalition forming, willing to go with the United States, given that there was a proper process, having the UN involved. Let's not forget the Bush administration was not keen at all on having the UN involved. It was Tony Blair who convinced George W. Bush to go to the UN in the first place, and I think he achieved that. So in that sense, I do not agree with Sir John when he says that Tony Blair failed to have any impact on the UN.
Julie Lenarz is Executive Director of the Human Security